Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily, the first English news program in Poland. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. The electoral campaign has taken off. The ruling party has presented its full electoral list, while the first places on the electoral list were presented by the Polish Coalition yesterday, by the Polish People's Party and Cookies 15 movement. Today, the left-wing coalition presented theirs, with the Citizens Coalition set to publish their complete list by tomorrow. According to recent polls, the Polish People's Party, who joined forces with the Cookies 15 movement, may not cross the electoral threshold, while a great return after 4 years of absence from the parliament may be in store for the Polish left-wing coalition. Robert Biedron's Spring Party and Adrian Zandberg's Together will run as a Democratic Left Alliance electoral committee.
During yesterday's election convention, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz said that the coalition of the Polish People's Party and the Cookies 15 movement are hoping for a double-digit election result, although in recent polls they did not even exceed the required 5%. This grouping often polled below the electoral threshold. Later it would turn out that they were crossing the threshold after all. Nevertheless, this story with cookies reminds me of a joke from the Soviet era. What will come from a cross between a hedgehog and a wire? Barbed wire. I have the impression that this cross between the Polish People's Party and cookies will not be liked by fans of either party. It may end in an election disaster. We will see. The voters will decide. The Confederation, which is supported by many former Cookies 15 activists, has a chance to get into parliament. Same goes for the Democratic Left Alliance, which is running with the Spring of Robert Biedroń and the Together party. They have trauma after the last election when they missed out by half a percentage point, so they wanted to avoid this 8% threshold, which is required for a coalition. Hence the idea to start as one committee. Unfortunately, their procedures failed. I think the activists knew it could not be done. They pushed young activists into such a situation that they no longer had time to react. At this time, the left are the main winners of these opposition scuffles. As previously announced, Civic Platform does not rule out publishing joint Senate lists with the Polish People's Party. Unofficially, former Prime Minister Waldemar Pawlak is to be one of the candidates of the entire opposition. Tomorrow, the Citizens Coalition, formed by, among others, the Civic Platform and Modern parties, will present full electoral lists to the parliament.
One of the last family picnics organized by the Law and Justice Party was held today in the city of Stalowa Wola, with the participation of the leader of the party, Jarosław Kaczyński, and the Polish Prime Minister, Mateusz Morawiecki. During the event, Law and Justice Party politicians summarized their holiday activity and started the electoral campaign before the upcoming Polish parliamentary elections.
Since mid-July, the Law and Justice Party has been organizing the so-called family picnics under the slogan "A Good Time for Poland." Today, this event was held in the city of Stalowa Wola with the participation of the leader of the party, Jarosław Kaczyński, Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, and Law and Justice Party member of the European Parliament, Beata Szydło.
This is the last meeting of the Family Picnics event. I would like to summarize every meeting because each of them was held in every region of Poland. Every person that took part in those meetings said that he sees a good change. There is still so much to do, but it is getting better. We showed that the authority that wants a change can make a change, but also that it is possible to keep your word. It is possible for the authority to promise something and then fulfill that promise. Poles decided that they wanted to trust us and our program, and we fulfilled our promises. It's been 4 years. It is a very long time. It is the moment when people ask, how was it 4 years ago and how is it now? Was it easier to find a job 4 years ago, or is it easier to find a job now? Is the salary better now, or was it better 4 or 5 years ago? People ask these kinds of questions. How did the situation with pensions look like back then? When was life easier for the Polish families with 1, 2, 3 or even more children? 4 years ago or today? These are the questions that every Pole should ask himself. Can Poland be better? We think that Poland can be better and that this is our basic responsibility.
This was the last family picnic organized by the Law and Justice Party. In September, the ruling party is going to present its campaign promises in every region of Poland. Right now, the party is preparing its election program, which will be presented on the convention, scheduled for September 7th in the Lubelskie region.
The conflict revolving around the fate of more than 100 African migrants on board the Spanish NGO vessel Open Arms is deepening. Today, the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez announced that the vessel will be allowed to disembark the migrants in Spain. Representatives of the NGO, however, claim that there is a situation of extreme urgency on board and that the 6-day journey to Spain is too long to consider. They instead demand the Italian Minister of Interior, Matteo Salvini, to allow them to dock in Italy.
Representatives of the NGO state that the situation on board is tense, with constant fights breaking out between the migrants who have spent more than 2 weeks at sea. Today, Open Arms released video of migrants trying to swim to the Italian shore before being forced to turn back. We have been warning for days. People jumping into the water, fights, violence, panic, anxiety crisis. What else do we need? Dead people? Those who did not die at sea have to die here on board Open Arms?
We don't accept Spain as a port. We cannot risk the safety of all these people. They need to disembark now. We are in a state of humanitarian emergency. We cannot put the physical integrity of the people rescued and the crew through 6 days of sailing.
The Italian Minister of Interior, Matteo Salvini, interprets Spain's decision as a victory. Good news, those who stick it out are the ones who win. The migrants on board Open Arms received the good news a few minutes ago that the Spanish government is opening its ports for them.
Una buona notizia, dicevamo.
In these hours, we have seen just about everything from these people on the ship. It is a global shame. Fake sick people who, when they were visited, were not sick. The doctor in charge of medical services in Lampedusa said that, and he was attacked.
Apre I porti.
As Open Arms has turned out to offer to dock in Spain, the stand is expected to continue in the coming days.
That's it for today. See you next time on Poland Daily. But stay tuned for the Poland Daily Weather Report, followed by the Poland Daily Business section.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. In this night, sky will be a light overcast in most regions. Rainfall will appear over Zielona Góra. Temperature will increase and will range from 15 degrees in Koszalin and Szczecin to 19 degrees in Wrocław. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. On the west, rain will appear. In central Poland and on the east, we may expect plenty of sunlight. Temperature will rise in the whole country. We will see the highest temperature 29 degrees in Lublin. The minimum 24 degrees will be in Olsztyn and in Koszalin. Let's see the forecast for the next days. On Tuesday, temperature will range from 21 to 24 degrees. Sunlight will appear in most regions except the southwest. On Wednesday, temperature will rise, but in most regions we will see thunderstorms and downpour. More sunlight is expected on the northeast. On Thursday, rainy weather will continue. The highest temperature will be on the southwest, 30 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
You are watching Poland Daily Business Edition. Our guest tonight is Ryszard Żółtaniecki, former ambassador for the Republic of Poland. Sir, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
So we will talk about a little bit more international issues as seen from Poland, and obviously east from Poland after Ukraine and Belarus. There is Russia ruled since over 20 years by Vladimir Putin. And we see that Russia behaving strange. On the one side, we have the forest fires, the biggest in recorded history. We have accidents like the nuclear one in north when, as we've been told, the nuclear-powered rocket explode with its reactor. We had the huge explosion in one of the ammo depot that shattered one of the Siberian cities, and we have this demonstration.
Massive protests
in Moscow.
And
how does it all add up? How do you see that?
From the point of view of the logic and result, if we take result of the cool analysis, Russia, Putin's Russia, should disappear somehow in the foreseeable future. But it's still there. It's still a major player, one of the major players in the international game, playing the crucial role in some part of international space. Why? Because we deal with a different political being. We tend in the West to evaluate Russia and to perceive Russia as a little bit kind of deviation, small deviation of liberal democracy.
That's just another country, another European country, when citizens have to say something.
Something they do, of course, the repression, Putin is authoritarian, but we understand that they are close to us. They are not identical, but they are close to us. This is a major mistake. Let's take the case of the massive protest and demonstration in Russia. In Russia, certain groups of the society always tend to be Western. Westernization of the Russian culture it's an issue since Peter the Great. We observe it in 19th century, especially from December uprisings. Till the massive working class rebels in the second part of the 19th century. We see the purely social democratic revolution in Russia before Bolsheviks took over. But you see, on the other hand, we have this Byzantinian Asian character of the system, and always the system, the core of the political, philosophical system is winning at the end of the day. So in Russia we have we don't know what will happen in the future, but until now the traditional Russia, the Russia we know since it gets stabilized by the Peter the Great, is the same, represent the same character and the same mentality. Well-being level of the prosperity, of the social prosperity, is of secondary importance. What is the most important for the Russian soul, let's call it in this anachronic way, is strength and pride taken from the dynamism of their own state and the power.
So they see themselves in a mirror and they ask in a question, are those countries around us afraid of Russia or not? If they are afraid, that means that we are strong. And we should keep it on. If they are not, we should do something to return to the strength and build another weapons that has no analogy in the world.
Precisely. And as long as Vladimir Vladimirovich P is able to continue and is able to provide their own citizens, majority of their own citizens, with this type of specific pride, he will be in power. Of course, nothing is eternal. So probably in some years, the era, Putin's era, will end. But they will take care of the appropriate succession.
So we will have just another Tsar of the same kind.
On the other hand, we have to be very careful with unconditional support for those who are anti-Putin, who represent anti-Putin values or attitudes. Because it's not true that every enemy of our enemy is our friend. We don't know what is the nature. Remember that the symbol of the Polish-German reunion at the end of 80s and the beginning of 90s was Graf von Stauffenberg. He was the enemy of Adolf Hitler, but I don't know if he succeeded.
We can read his opinion on
About Poles.
racially inferior Poles when he entered our country with the occupying army.
And the same is with Russia. Not necessarily all those who are now represent anti-Putin's movement are better than Putin.
With the bad reputation that Russia has now in the West, they say that there is an opinion among Polish politicians and business circles that this is the moment we can grow our own strength, because the next Tsar will be credited as a democratic by the West for the same story with Putin. That
the same story.
Initially, he was a friend of George Bush.
Of everybody, almost in the West.
Democratic in the soul.
Young, dynamic, educated, speaking foreign languages.
Turn out that he is just another epitome of Stalin. So.
And he's not necessarily he's the worst one. Perhaps his successors, who are now in the crowd on the street of Russia, could be much more dangerous for us than Putin.
So let's keep the moment and hope so for the Russians also that the stability of this country will not be challenged, compromised.
So far, in spite of all domestic problems, economic problems, you mentioned
all kinds of
disasters.
Disasters that are happening. We had the floods during the winter, then fires during the summer. Catastrophic size of it, explosions of the nuclear
Logically
rockets.
speaking, it should disappear, but it still plays the crucial role, and certain global issues are unsolvable without the active participation of Russia.
On the other hand, we have Ukraine, which is an example that even in the country that is very much similar to Russia, there is possible of having election. There is possible to having the people voting and having their will.
Yes, but in Russia we have a long, very well developed tradition of the state. Ukraine is deprived from the. It's in their history. If you take the history of the state, it's a big hole. They have no tradition of democracy. They try to learn very...
but it somehow is not working.
This is the final answer. They know how to implant the procedures, but the final effect at the end of the day is disastrous.
We counted for the best, but it happens.
We wish them
it turned
the best.
out, but no, I'm trying to. But this is quoting from one of the Russian politicians who said, "We tried the best, but it came out as always." And that's about Russia. Ryszard Żółtaniecki, former ambassador of Republic of Poland. Sir, thank you very much for this conversation. And that was it for Poland Daily Business tonight.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. On the west, rain will appear. In central Poland and on the east, we may expect plenty of sunlight. Temperature will rise in the whole country. We will see the highest temperature 29 degrees in Lublin. The minimum 24 degrees will be in Olsztyn and Koszalin. Let's take a look at the forecast for our continent. In Central Europe, more sunlight will appear. Temperature will fall and will range from 22 to 26 degrees. Higher temperature we will see in Vienna, 29 degrees. The weather will improve on British Islands. Temperature will increase to 23 degrees in London. The highest temperature we will see in Madrid, 38 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, And today on Poland Daily Culture, we are going to talk about unique cultural and educational undertaking, Polish Debutante Program. We have in studio with us Agnieszka Michalczyk.
Good evening.
And Małgorzata Tomorowicz-Malińska.
A pleasure to be here.
Founder and organizer of the program.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for coming. But before we start, let's watch a short film. Polish Debutante Program are the exclusive partner of the Vienna Opernball. And the most famous, and I think everyone every year watches the tiaras which debutantes wear during the ball. As I understand, Polish debutantes also get such tiaras. What happened to them? How do they look? And do they keep them later?
Well, the tiaras are designed by very famous designers. For example, Karl Lagerfeld or Donatella Versace. Of course, we have those tiaras, but because we are a completely charitable program, we donate those tiaras to charity actions.
And they are auctioned off.
Yeah.
And all the proceeds go to us.
So the girls which Polish debutante who participate in the Opernball as a kind of reward for taking part. Yeah. Yeah. Later they have to pass the tiaras.
Yes.
For the charity organization.
Yeah,
so they cannot. So it's not a. It basically it's not a Vanity Fair and.
No,
definitely
no,
not.
Because we are a charitable program, and this is very important for us to help others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you receive something, you give something to others as well. And I think the biggest, the finest thing is to give something which you would want to possess, not something that you do not need. That, I think, is the principle of true giving.
Yes, and of course, every girl would like to have a tiara at home,
yes.
especially one designed by Lagerfeld. And then, even though they dances in them, they have to pass them later.
But they have Polish tiaras, because during the Polish debutante ball, they are also giving beautiful tiaras, and the tiaras are designed by Polish designers. And they can keep the tiaras, and the tiaras are also very elegant and very beautiful.
So they keep the part of a memory.
Polish tiaras.
After finishing the program.
Yes.
And could you tell us more about the Vienna Ball? You have so many girls in the program. How do you choose those who go to Vienna, and how do you prepare them to represent Poland there, as I understand?
Firstly, they choose, we have our, let me put it this way, idea whom we would like to send, because we see who is the most deserving, who has given so much heart, effort and work into this program. And those are the ones that we would like to be chosen. But the debutantes, actually, they vote themselves. And they can choose from amongst them, the ones that they think are truly the ones who should represent Poland and
deserve.
Yeah. And is it important that Polish dancers and Polish participants are there at the Opernball? Is it noticed even in this crowd of people?
Yes, yes, Polish delegation is very elegant. We have beautiful dresses which are designed by Żanna Morrison, and each year she prepares beautiful white dresses, and she also prepares dresses for us. This is the white tie elegance. So we look beautiful, we dance beautiful because we have the boys from Warszawianka. And what else? We are very open to others, we are very, sociable.
But they are, as I understand, they are representatives of every country at the Opernball in Vienna. Or mostly?
Mostly, yes.
So it is noticed that there are also people from Poland. And are you only debutants from Poland, or do you meet others there?
From Poland, no, but we meet people from Russia, people from all over the world, even from China, yes.
Mm-hmm. From Great Britain, from France, but mostly from Austria.
Yeah.
But I must say that we are noticed and we are very well liked, I would say. And well, up till now, we haven't been missed. I mean, in the sense that they even told us that an Opernball without your delegation wouldn't be the same, which is actually a great compliment.
I see.
So we truly like being there. The people who you meet there are very, very nice, very polite, very open-hearted and open-minded, which is very important for us, for the Polish young delegation, to also go out into the world, make new acquaintances, meet new people. It's a wonderful experience.
What meaning has Vienna Opernball? Because I guess it's not obvious for every viewer. It's a very long tradition already.
Well, more than 200 years of history. This is the most important event in the whole world, Opernball.
In the carnival time,
yes.
you mean?
Yeah.
As a ball. What are the traditions there? What are the rules there? Can everyone go there? Can everyone buy a ticket? How would you have to wear? Can debutants use phones, for example, or are there any other rules?
No phones, of course. So the dress code for this ball is, of course, white tie. So every woman, every girl has beautiful long dress.
Evening gown.
Yes. And all the men, they look absolutely wonderful. Mm-hmm. Yes,
so are you planning to send another representative for the next ball?
Of course,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yesterday, Małgorzata has phoned to the director of the ball of Opernball in Vienna, and she told her that okay, we are ready to send 6. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So for next Opernball, there are going to be six Polish representatives.
Yes, 3 debutants and 3 boys from Warszawianka.
Wonderful. So we keep the fingers crossed for them so they don't faint and they don't miss the step. Thank you for being here with us and for sharing this with us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And thank you, viewers of Poland Daily Culture. And I hope you will also watch Vienna Opernball next year, thinking that Polish delegates are also there.
I'm here today in the Saxon Gardens at the heart of Warsaw. Since 1727, a public garden, one of the first in Europe. But it started life as something more, the garden of a palace built by the first Saxon king of Poland, Augustus II. a member of the Wettin dynasty from Saxony became kings of Poland. Why were they here? What were they doing? Why did they build this palace? And what is more, what is the Saxon Axis? An exercise in urban planning. Join me in Poland Daily History today when we find out more. And so we have another, well, a much smaller fountain in this lake. Is that a modern, that looks like a more modern fountain?
Yeah. Actually, that's a fountain which was made here already in 19th century.
Okay,
yeah,
so
already 19th century. So at the end of the view, actually, you can see the
water tower,
something which looks like an antique
antique temple,
kind of temple, like
yes.
a Vesta temple, for
exactly.
example, in Tivoli. Vesta temple.
I think it is that. I think that was its inspiration. I reckon,
yeah, it was the direct inspiration for Marconi.
Also by Marconi, yes.
By the way, it was opened at the same year as the fountain that we've seen.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually Marconi designed whole like water pipe system in mid 19th century, which was the first modern water pipe system in Warsaw, and that was a water tower to get the
sufficient gravity in the water,
the gravity on the water, and then it
fountains.
flowed later on to the pipes and through all the city center. It didn't work that well. Actually, the pressure wasn't enough to get to the upper floors.
I think you need a higher,
only
taller tower.
Yeah, only the wealthiest inhabitants were
had taps
actually.
anyway, so everybody else would have to go to the river or do what they could, go to the natural wells dotted around. But it's actually rather a pity about the modern graffiti, but it's a rather attractive building. Again, I think there must be something in the human spirit that these classical buildings, they sort of, and I know they sort of have a proportion which is very attractive. You know, you feel they sort of look right. And the columns again, and I think, yes, those are again the Corinthian capitals on the columns. I mean, marvelous stuff, really. It just looks right, and I think so much modern architecture is somehow it's not in a proportion which you find as a human being immensely pleasing. I mean, if you look at great pictures, they all tend to be in a sort of 2 to 3 proportion because for the human eye they fit. And I think the great thing about classical architecture is to the human eye it just looks right. Something a lot of modern architects don't seem to quite understand. They can make modern buildings, but somehow they lose all sense of proportion and feeling. But this, I think, is a lovely building.
Yeah,
could do with a coat of paint, but
that's a pity. Yeah,
apart from that, it's actually quite delightful.
Yeah, and of course, as in English, quite often as in English landscape gardens, and they also made a hill.
Yes.
So it's the temple is actually over the hill. So it's like in many, for example, Englische Garden in Munich is also the same structure. Like you have this kind of temple on the hill, and here also they of course made this hill, so they need to.
Yes, you mentioned English garden. I mean, certainly in the 18th century English gardens, this was very much the fashion to have these statues, have these temples. And also in England, they'd also wrapped up in political thought as well. If you go to a place like Stowe, a great house, a great Whig family at the time they lived in it, then the whole area is dotted with temples which were designed to make a political point as well, about enlightenment, about more liberal values vis-a-vis what the opposition might be doing. So again, it's not just a beautiful building, not just decoratively attractive, but also philosophically and intellectually stimulating. And this, I think, only works with classical architecture. And the idea you have sort of this combination of nature and these buildings is remarkable. And you really do begin to think and understand that these were really not just buildings and gardens, but they were a message, and the person behind them was sending a message to the world. I am enlightened, I am powerful, I am here to stay, whatever the message might be. And they did it through gardens, through architecture.
And actually something which is very, very important here is also, again, something that you point out, like linking practical things with the beauty of the classical architecture. So that was the building for the practical use also,
but also
as a water tower for the whole water pipe system. Yeah? But at the same time, they needed to also, if you look at this lake, actually this lake is not natural lake at all as well.
No.
They just dig this lake to have the soil to make the hill. Yeah. So in this, that was very practical, but at the same time, they made it with a beautiful. It ended up with a beautiful landscape.
So the whole, I think we can say the whole garden is an exercise in Augustus and the Saxons saying, here we are in Warsaw, we are making our mark. We've had as we discussed earlier, we had the royal route going that way. We've now got our axis going this way. We're planting ourselves in the centre of the city. But we are actually, although we have these absolute tendencies, we are enlightened as well because we have these statues to the arts, to history, to
But
music.
this building is also important to remember is from the next period, so
Yes.
the mid-19th century, and something which is that you can see looking at this building is also that it was a part of reshaping of the garden into the leisure park as well for walking with all those views, and this park was connected not only with this building, with water in general as well.
Yes.
So you have the Mineral Water Institute, for example, which was kind of sanitary for the people,
public
which were
health, which was a great 19th century, not obsession, necessity, all over Europe. A lot of the British legislation on public health and building the sewers in London was all late 19th century work.
Exactly.
We probably had some with the Romans, but they've probably been forgotten about. So you're right, it is this recreation in the 19th century as well.
And that was extremely important also here in the context of Warsaw, which was a very densely populated city. And you had the houses which are houses next to each other, and the garden in the middle of this densely built-up city was a kind of not only the garden for pleasure, but it was also the necessity.
Of course, to get some fresh air,
to get some fresh air.
A bit of feeling of openness.
And we talk also that this garden was totally open and open for everyone, but it was open only for elegant people. So you had the guards on every gate, and they were welcoming only the people with nice suits and women with nice skirts and so on and so on. So that was mostly the garden for the rather middle class and upper class, which was kind of using all those pleasures which were here.
So not really a garden open to all the people, but.
Not that much.
Yeah,
not much. For example, a lot of Jewish traders, which were just behind the garden, they were never allowed in. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I always think that it's just a reflection randomly. That one of the great things about London is all the royal parks. Because they're royal parks, you can walk on the grass. And when you come to continental Europe, of course, they're all republics. Most of the countries are republics, and you can never walk on the grass. So that, for me, is another reason why I think monarchies are better than republics, because you're allowed to walk on the grass. Not quite sure what the rules are here. I mean, people seem to be walking on the grass, but it does sort of tell you something about the mentality. And of course, I just think that's just a slightly amusing aside, my own sort of rather strange view of the world. But it's nice that you have these places in the city. I mean, they're becoming very important now, but if we'd been here in the 18th and 19th century, we'd have probably been even more conscious in the days before environmental concerns and people living very close, making fires, cooking, how much of a lung this would have been to those who would come and enjoy it, an escape from the noise and the dirt of the city.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it was always one of the favorite places for the people of Warsaw, just to enjoy it and to walk and to get some culture also. To go to the theater, because we were saying that the original theater of Saski period was dismantled, but actually behind the Vesta temple there was another theater which was built up here in 1870, which was the summer theater, which preserved here actually until 1939 demolition during the siege of Warsaw at the beginning.
And there were also some glass garden.
Kind of glass houses.
Glass houses, yes.
Already in early 19th century, actually there were glass houses here for the tropical flowers and tropical plants. And some of them were grown up in those glass houses, and then they were put all around the park also. So we used to have
I think
there
that was
also.
another casualty of the Second World War. I think that building didn't survive either.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So it just goes to show there's a lot here. And I've walked through this park many times myself, and I've never really appreciated as much as I have since we've been making this
back
program.
in 19th century and early 20th century, actually it was kind of a saloon of Warsaw. So all the people were coming here nicely with nice clothes and to meet with this Mineral Water Institute at the cafes and restaurants which used to be around of Lessel family, for example. The most famous probably candy shop in a city, which was just next to Królewska Street on the edge of the garden. Yeah, so all those facilities which used to be there. After the war, actually the park became rather walking part to connect the modern city center and the old city center. But it's not anymore like full of all those shops and institutions which used to be there.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Travel. I'm here with our favorite forest ranger and education officer of the Campinos Park. And we're going to the observation station across this fine bridge. It's out here and there's a bit of water. That's why the bridge is here. At any rate, here we go. Come with us. Mariusz, where are we right now? This is the observation tower. So mamy tutaj. What do we have here?
Jesteśmy na Olszowieckim Błocie. To są tereny podmokłe, bagienne. No niestety przez suszę, która była przez wiosnę, teraz też niewiele deszczy padało, no to praktycznie wody tutaj nie ma, ale były lata, że te wody bagienne zalewały wieś, która się tutaj znajduje, czyli granicę. Dlatego wybudowano wał przeciwpowodziowy.
Okay. He's saying that we are in the observation of the marshland here, which is usually very wet, but because it's been a particularly dry year, there isn't any water at all. In fact, you could walk out there, which is very unusual. There's also, sometimes the water is so high that there's actually a small dike, a val in Polish, a dike, which protects the village area where we were before from the marsh water rising. But anyway, it's very dry, but still, it may be dry, but it's a beautiful view. And you can see even on a day like this, with where it's rather overcast and quite pleasantly cool for the summer, we can see the colors of the marshland, and maybe even a little better than you could if it were very bright. Coś więcej?
Całkiem niedaleko, bo jakieś 3 kilometry na zachód mamy tutaj piekło.
Piekło?
Piekło. Heaven.
He says 3 kilometers from here. Heaven? Or hell?
Oh, hell. Oh.
Hell, I think.
Bo heaven.
Yeah, heaven's up here. Niebo.
Niebo, a to hell.
We have hell. Dlaczego? To jest ten piekło. Why is it hell?
Ja przechodziłem 2 razy przez to piekło. Jak widać, wróciłem. Ale wróciłem cały brudny, ubłocony, podarte spodnie, rzeczy. Tam żaden krzew, drzewo nie rośnie, tylko tużyce i trawy. Zwierzęta też niechętnie tam przechodzą.
So it's like a big bog. And he says when he goes over there, it's a bog, right? Yeah, mud, błoto, and all this, yeah. He says that when he comes back, he's completely covered in mud. Dlaczego jedziesz tam? Idziesz tam?
Bo chciałem zobaczyć.
Z
ciekawości.
He didn't have to go. He was just curious. But basically, it's just a huge bog that far. And even the animals don't go there, which sounds fun. Maybe we should go. What do you think? Stay with us. Poland Daily Travel. We're here in the forest in Campinos. And this is Mariusz Morkowski. And I'm Will.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Poland Daily Travel. We've got a splendid series of programs for you, so just sit back and enjoy the ride as we take you on a magical mystery tour through the Campinos National Forest on the outskirts of beautiful downtown Warsaw. Campinos National Park was established in 1959 to protect the unique complex of inland dunes and wetlands, the natural plant communities, and the rich fauna, that's animals, and numerous monuments of Polish history and culture. And indeed, there are some pretty substantial dunes, as you will see. So stay tuned, you won't want to miss that. And did you know that Campinos National Forest, which is a UNESCO biosphere, is twinned with the Indiana Dunes National Park in the United States? The park covers an area of about 40,000 hectares. And in the park you will find a moose, a lynx, lots of owls, plenty of deer, and even a bear. Just kidding about the bear. And no wolves either, unfortunately. More than 73% of the park is covered with forests. It's a wildlife sanctuary with over 200 species of birds. There are swamps and forests and dunes and beavers and otters, to name a few more animals, along with pine martens, foxes, polecats, and as we said, lynx. And indeed, you might see a wolf. Campinos, the lungs of Warsaw, 40,000 hectares of wilderness on the northwest frontier of Warsaw. It has history, it has beauty, it has mystery. So you won't want to miss this series of exciting episodes from the Campinos National Forest. It was a lot of fun doing it, and I'm sure you're going to really enjoy it. On Poland Daily Travel, your favorite source for travel information about Poland and the best travel programming about Poland that has ever been attempted, that has ever been done, and that you've ever seen. Stay with us, Poland Daily Travel. Why do we do it? We do it for you.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Live. And Mariusz and I were talking as we walked out here to the end of the observation deck about what this landscape would have looked like 15 to 20,000 years ago. Kilkanaście tysięcy temu. And Mariusz was saying that if you see behind me where this tree line is, that this was the old banks of the Vistula River. It was extremely wide at that time. And the water flowed to the west, right?
Płynęła na zachód, a potem w kierunku północnym przez Niemcy do Morza Północnego.
Right.
Jak tutaj się zatrzymało czoło lodowca, to właśnie wody z tego topniejącego czoła lodowca i wody płynące z południa Polski płynęły tutaj szerokością około 18 kilometrów.
Mm-hmm. So it was 18 miles wide,
tak, szeroka.
It was 18 kilometers wide, the Vistula, or the Wisła in Polish, at this time. And the water flowed west, and it flowed west all the way to the North Sea. This was during the Ice Age. So we're looking at a very ancient landscape. Nie było nic tutaj budowane cały czas, tak? Od tego momentu?
Wtedy nie było ludzi tutaj.
Tak.
Na bagnach tutaj nie było ludzi. Trochę dalej mieszkali we wsi Granica.
So this area, there was nothing built here. There were no people living here because it's been a bog and a marsh the whole time. And it's been this way for thousands and thousands of years. That was the point I wanted to make because I think it's kind of cool. Thanks. That's from me and from Mariusz, from the bog, from the marsh that doesn't have water.